Bombshell report in New York Times talks of a secret meeting between Jared Kushner and Hakeem Jeffries. So why has Hakeem Jeffries betrayed us and is talking to the enemy? Because he claims, or the New York Times claims, they're going to work on housing and affordability together. And Jared Kushner is going to be a big ally of the Democrats in lowering prices. And the rest of the media have collectively decided to be morons and believe that cover story. Why did they actually get together? We'll tell you. Anna has the whole story.
This is one of the prime examples of Cenk Uygur being 100% correct in the way legacy media analyzes a story. Because fact of the matter is, Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader, is bought by Israeli interests. We will prove that in just a minute. And rather than focus on what Kushner's priorities are and why he would actually want to meet with Kushner, they're going ahead and regurgitating this BS about how they're thinking about housing costs and what they could do to put their heads together and do something about it. Sure. So let's get to the details of this meeting as reported by the New York Times. So the Times spoke to 5 people with knowledge of this meeting, and it was held in a private space in New York City and was described as a catch up for Kushner and Jeffries. I guess they're buddies that need to catch up.
That's definitely true.
Right.
They have worked together in the past, and they like each other because they're actually on the same team. It's just not our team.
Now, in a situation in which you have 2 members of opposing political groups coming together to actually work on policy that does improve the lives of Americans, I'm in favor of that. I think that's great. That's not what's happening here. So here's what we're supposed to believe. During the recent meeting, the pair discussed housing, immigration, and the high cost of living as potential areas of common ground. Oh yeah, Jared Kushner real worried about our cost of living.
Come on, guys, how do you write this garbage?
Kushner suggested that Jeffries should meet with the White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, 2 people with knowledge of the meeting said. Just as a reminder, Wiles helped to get Benjamin Netanyahu reelected in Israel back in 2020. She worked as a consultant for his campaign. But anyway, I digress, let's move on. So no mention at all of Israel or foreign policy in the New York Times report about this meeting. They write that Kushner is frequently consulted by a number of Trump's advisors, and he has told people that if anything bipartisan is to get done with Congress, Jeffries is the most serious person among Democratic leaders. Wiles, he has said, is the most serious inside the West Wing. Most serious in what regard? In regard to being a gatekeeper and preventing certain information from getting to Donald Trump? In regard to setting up a situation room meeting in which Benjamin Netanyahu was there, the former head of Mossad, Barnea, was there, and they lied to Trump and convinced him to go to war against Iran, which has been completely and utterly disastrous. Is that what we're talking about here? But anyway, let's talk a little more about the issues that were allegedly discussed and the positions of these 2 individuals on those issues. So in a statement, Jeffries did not even acknowledge that the meeting took place, probably because he knows that Democratic voters will engage in a bit of backlash about it. But here's what he did say. Throughout this Congress, Republicans have adopted a my way or the highway approach to governing that has failed the American people. To stop the madness, we have repeatedly made clear that an extremist approach will not work and will be met with forceful opposition. So remember, the Democrats are expected to take over the House following the midterm elections. So is this Hakeem Jeffries' way of saying, we're gonna have a little more leverage as Democrats in Congress, and as a result, we're going to cave to what the Trump administration wants? Is that what he's priming us for? And he also says, we are fighting for an affordable America. The question is whether Republicans will join us.
That's not a question. You're supposed to be the leader of the Democrats. And you're like, I wonder if the Republicans are such good people that they'll join us in the fight to get to more affordability. When has the Republican Party ever done that? They've never done, even by the way, even if they had done that, you're the leader of the opposition. You're not supposed to be helping them with their marketing. And they've never done that. So now the leader of the Democrats in the House thinks, well, you know what? The Republicans might change their entire governing philosophy overnight and help the American people. And I'm gonna tell all of you guys about how they might be wonderful people who help you right before the elections.
Yeah.
I mean, on that alone, what are you doing? Let alone the real reason for this meeting.
Real quick, just a very brief video that highlights and bolsters what Cenk is saying. Take a look.
Your plans for the housing bill, Mr. President, are you?
I don't know. I think it's so unimportant by compared to the Save America Act. There's so much talk about, oh, we're going to drive housing prices down. I don't want to drive housing prices down. I want to drive housing prices up. They came in and they said affordability. They made up the word because that's the only thing they're good at. Although I'm good at making up words too.
You signed that housing bill.
I have not. It hasn't been sent to me yet. It's coming. I understand, and then I'll make it. Here's what I would like to sign. Much more than a bill, that big deal. It's a yawn. Me, compared to the Save America Act, just about everything is a big yawn.
Just a big yawn. Who cares about affordability? It's a word that was made up by the Democrats. And Hakeem Jeffries wants us to believe that by secretly meeting with Jared Kushner, he's trying to plot some sort of strategy or policy that would lower housing costs. Please.
So no, look, New York Times gets the scoop on this meeting, but how do they get the scoop? They got a leak. So what's the price of the leak? The price is you frame it in the way that we want you to frame it. By the way, if you don't know, that is a deal that reporters make, the national reporters make all the time. They implicitly go, yes, we will lie to our audience as long as you give us a scoop, right? So we're gonna de facto lie in this case by quoting you. Now, technically I'm not lying, I'm just quoting you on what the meeting was about. And I'm not going to give I swear to you, I'm not gonna give the audience, the readers, the context of Republicans have proposed nothing on affordability. Not now, not before, not ever. Jared Kushner has never shown a single interest in affordability as a topic. But here, even if you don't agree with that, even though that's just empirical, one thing is absolutely certain that even a New York Times reporter couldn't deny, which is Jared Kushner doesn't work on domestic policy. He works on foreign policy. You know, Noble Mobile is one of our top sponsors. We love those guys. They save you a ton of money. So they've got a new proposal for you guys. It's gonna save you even more. So you know you can't pay more than $50 ever. You know you get money back for if you don't use your data. So it's already an incredible deal. tyt.com/switch. Now they're saying your first month is going to be only $10. So that's, depending on how much data you use, savings of $20 to $40, right? You could download the app to track your brain rot index. That's how much you can save each month using your phone less and spending more time doing things that actually make you happy. So just a ton of wins in here, and the cell phone service for me has been perfect. I didn't have to change my phone or anything else on the phone. So please don't waste money. So if you're paying over $50, definitely. I think if you're paying over $30, switch now and you get the first month for $10. So tyt.com/switch, tyt.com/switch. Now he doesn't have any real role in the US government, not any technical role, but he is our lead negotiator in peace negotiations with who? With Iran and Hamas and sometimes Lebanon, but mainly Israel. And in fact, as we showed you last week, Jared Kushner went and met with Netanyahu for 4 hours, and he came out and said, oh, we're scrapping our peace deal with Hamas. It's now officially dead. We are going with the Israeli position instead, which is that Hamas must disarm everything, nothing left, and then Israel might at that point do some of the things that they promised, but that they will do nothing in gradual steps like we told you. In other words, I work for Israel. But my godfather, Benjamin Netanyahu, stays at the Kushners. Every time he goes to America in the past, he literally sleeps in Jared Kushner's room. That's how close they are. Yep. So he's like, I'm gonna listen to Papa. And so Jared Kushner, and whether you agree with that or not, and you think, no, Jared Kushner is an American and representing American interests and holding Israel accountable, which again is counterfactual, cannot be shown in any way, shape, or form, but that's okay. Even if you believe that, you cannot deny that his field is foreign policy. That is the logical thing that Hakeem Jeffries would be talking to him about, not domestic policy. But nevertheless, you're lied to about why they had the meeting. Why they had the meeting is super obvious. It's so that Hakeem Jeffries could assure Jared Kushner and hence the Israeli lobby, yes, don't worry, if I'm Speaker of the House, we will still be your loyal servants. We will not let any of these newcomers, no matter how many offices they win, will never allow them to have power. No matter how many votes you need, I will find you exactly that number of Democratic votes to make sure you're funded forever. We merge our militaries and anything else that you offer. And they said it was held in a place in New York. I would be shocked if it wasn't held in the home of one of the largest Zionist donors in this country.
100%.
Okay, because that's where all of these meetings are, but I'm sure it's about affordability.
So given this new story, given the fact that Hakeem Jeffries met with Kushner secretly in private, and we're all being lied to about what they were actually discussing, I think it is incumbent upon progressives in Congress to take a stand and say, we do not support Hakeem Jeffries as the Speaker of the House. Now, will we hear from a single progressive, including those who vociferously defended Hakeem Jeffries as Speaker of the House? People like Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Does she still support Hakeem Jeffries as Speaker of the House?
Honestly, like publicly in their statements, I don't know anyone in Congress that has been more vocally supportive of Hakeem Jeffries than AOC. And that is unconscionable. To be fair to AOC, there's not a single Democrat that said that Hakeem Jeffries should not be our Speaker. Does a progressive caucus exist?
I don't think so.
Is there a single progressive in Congress? So remember, Hakeem Jeffries just last weekend said, we're not gonna do Medicare for all. And he was asked, by the way, a rare good question on mainstream media, wait, weren't you a co-sponsor of Medicare for all for over a decade? And why did you change your mind now? Now, just as you're going to gain power and be Speaker of the House and could actually push it to a vote.
His mind wasn't there in the first place.
Yeah,
we all know that.
He was lying. We told you he was lying. We unearthed so many Democrats who were co-sponsors for Medicare for all when it was hot and it was popular to do, and they were going to run for higher office. And we told you they were frauds and they didn't mean it. If it ever came up for a vote, they'd vote no. And now Hakeem Jeffries has said it publicly. No, I'm not going to do Medicare for all. And why do you think that he's going around reassuring everyone right now? Because it looks like the Democrats are about to win. That's what all the polling shows. So he goes on TV and reassures his donors and big pharma and the drug companies, don't worry, we're still sellouts. I'm still your bitch and servant. And so if the Democrats gain power, I promise we won't do anything. We will do the same BS we've done for all of your lives. There was nothing we could do. Filibuster, parliamentarian. Don't worry, I'm on your side, Mr. Donor, I begged you, I'm your servant. So he does that for all the drug companies and all the insurance companies. Then this weekend he goes and meets with Kushner and he's like, don't worry, Israel, my biggest benefactor. I will always be your servant. And I will make sure that none of those Democrats that are opposed to Israel have any power. So don't worry, if the Democrats win the elections, you're still the boss of us. And so the only housing prices they discussed there, Anna, was how much housing prices are gonna be in the condos in the Trump Riviera in Gaza.
In fact, I mean, look, that is what the common interest here is between Kushner and Hakeem Jeffries. Now look, Hakeem Jeffries isn't a cheap prostitute, he's a pretty expensive prostitute. And if you don't believe me, let's take a look at graphic 7 here, where you will see that the Israel lobby has bought him for nearly $2 million. $1.741 million, and money talks. Now, as far as Jared Kushner goes, what is his #1 interest right now? Profiting off of the blood-soaked land in Gaza. Let's take a look.
There are real fears on the part of Arabs, and I'm sure you talk to a lot of them, who think once Gazans leave Gaza, Netanyahu's never gonna let them back in.
Maybe, but I'm not sure there's much left of Gaza at this point. So, if you think about even the construct, like, Gaza was not really a historical precedent, right? It was the result of a war. And so my sense is I would say, how do we deal with the terror threat that is there so that it cannot be a threat to Israel or to Egypt, right? I think that both sides are spending a fortune on military. I think neither side really wants to have, a terrorist organization enclaved right between them. I mean, Gaza's waterfront property. It could be very valuable, but I think from Israel's perspective, I would do my best to move the people out and then clean it up.
Of course, Kushner lacks any self-awareness, because you want to talk about terrorism. He is part and parcel of a terrorist regime that is carrying out or is advocating for the mass slaughter of civilians in a tiny little enclave of land that he's salivating over for his own little business deals.
Yeah.
And he's hoping, Jeffries will help him out with that too.
Yeah, first of all, I want to do a blanket correction. I've said on a couple of occasions that Jeffries has taken $5.5 million from the Israeli lobby. I was confusing him with Schumer, and so he's only taken 1.7 million, as you saw in that graphic. That's the latest numbers. Number two, the media says, well, of course that doesn't affect him. Politicians are such angels, and Hakeem Jeffries in particular is practically a saint. That's why $1.7 million he totally ignores, doesn't care about it at all, and he just objectively loves Israel and is a hardcore Zionist, not because of the 1.7 million, because he was born that way. You know, he woke up one day and he's like, oh God, I hope we give Israel everything. And if they need wars that'll destroy our economy but help them, get us killed but help them, and they need trillions of dollars of wars, golly gee, I'm gonna do that out of the blue because I love Israel so much. Come on, how moronic do you have to be to not realize these guys are all bought? Really? Come on, New York Times reporter, I challenge any of you to a debate on whether these politicians are honest or if the 1.7 million purchases them, period. It's obvious bribery, and they're obviously corrupt, and they obviously work for Israel. By the way, in domestic policy, they work for Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson and ExxonMobil, etc. But all of you liars never tell your readers that. Instead, you pretend that money in politics is irrelevant. So lastly, Anna brought this up earlier. So we're kind of known for talking to the right wing. So we're making this criticism. So how does that jive? Guys, when the right wing comes to you, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Joe Kent, whoever it might be, and they go, you were right. We're totally against this war. We're against Trump during this war. You were totally right about Israel. We're now against Israel. We're against Trump supporting Israel, and we're now totally done with Trump. They have come to us. That is a good thing. Hakeem Jeffries is going to Jared Kushner. Okay, if I'm wrong, and after that meeting, Jared Kushner turns into a progressive populist and like it dedicates his life to affordability, well, then I'll come out and say, oh, my bad, then they should have met.
Yeah, right? The guy who tried to buy an island in Albania for his bunker needs, for his underground bunker needs. Why do you need the underground bunker? Why is Trump so obsessed with the underground military bunker, beneath the White House?
Because Israel is planning to use nukes or have us use nukes. Okay, so, but you will all see with your own eyes that Jared Kushner does no such thing. He's never cared about anyone that wasn't a billionaire. He's not gonna do anything about affordability. And you will see with your own eyes that after the Democrats win the House, which is almost certain now, Hakeem Jeffries will betray you and he will vote with Israel. And he will make sure that enough Democrats vote with Israel that they get every single thing they want. And then at that point, if the rest of the Democrats are still servants of Hakeem Jeffries, then we will go nuclear on those Democrats. Because that means, then third parties become much more realistic in 2028. Because that would be the Democrats saying, it doesn't matter how much you vote for us. You can give us 100% of Congress and the White House and 100% of the Supreme Court, and it's not gonna matter. We're gonna serve Israel and all the donors anyway.
But Jake, look, this is like the one main point of contention between the two of us, because I think I'm already at a place that I think you're gonna eventually get to, which is there is no hope with the mainstream Democratic Party.
No, there's one hope.
There isn't, okay? Because the establishment, those in positions of real power in the Democratic establishment, the leadership of the Democratic establishment, thinks that they can keep doing the same thing they've been doing after winning elections, which is screwing their voters over.
So Anna, that is not a point of contention between us. That is obviously true. And so I'm not, look, and we already tried taking over the Democratic Party through Congress. It was called Justice Democrats. And it unfortunately turned into a failure because the people that got elected decided that they care more about their own egos and careers and didn't open the gates behind them.
They acquiesced.
Yeah, and they're now like, AOC is like the biggest fan of the establishment. Let's be honest about it. Every time she goes on TV, she's like, oh yeah, we're all wrong. And Hakeem is right and the establishment is right. And Joe Biden was the greatest. Remember, the very last people supporting Joe Biden from dropping out, even after the debate was, and it breaks my heart, but Bernie and AOC. And they were like, no, Biden, the corporate Democrat. Right? So what the hell's going on here? So that failed, and I'm under no illusions. The minute she went in, the leader of the people who was supposed to open the gate behind him was like, oh no, slam that gate shut. No primaries. I'm not supporting anyone against my coworkers, okay? So that dream is gone. Now, there is a dream that is obvious, and it's not a dream, it's super easy. It's not super easy to do, but it's super easy to understand, which is we do what Trump did in the Republican Party. We have one guy go into the primary and win it, and run against the Democratic Party, run against the establishment, run against Israel, and I nearly guarantee you victory. Then once you have the presidential candidate, you have the whole party. You can replace everyone at the DNC and you start giving out the orders. And of course, yes, the establishment Democrats are crooks, they're corrupt, and they will oppose the candidate. It doesn't matter, you crush them because you're now the leader of the Democratic Party. If we don't win the primary in 2028, the Democratic Party's dead. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.